States is still, for example, the area of security, our most important ally. But the European Union is a much more intimate relationship because it encompasses all areas of public activity.
In a speech not long ago, you described Germany as Poland's friend and ally above all.
Well, Britain is also very important to us, but Britain is not a neighbor. By the way, it was very nice of you in your introduction to say that Poland indeed pursues an ambitious foreign policy. And it's true that we have a history. We were a commonwealth for 400 years with other countries. We have a history of successful federalism. And yes, with other countries, we think we have ideas to contribute to the future of Europe.
And there's no question Poland matters. I mean, you're by far the biggest, economically most powerful of the relatively new member states of the European Union. And when you said a year ago in Berlin, when you said that, quote, I fear German power less than I fear German inactivity, that made enormous waves right around the continent because you appeared to be giving a signal that you in Poland wanted Germany to seize the reins, to guide and direct the future of Europe.
We wanted Germany to take action on saving the Eurozone, to lead on reforms. And since then, there have been several packages to help Greece, while at the same time encouraging Greece to carry out reforms. And we may now be seeing the light at the end of the tunnel as regards the crisis of the Eurozone, whose survival is in the vital interest of even non-members like Britain and Poland.
Yes, I mean, to put it very crudely, you wanted Germany to get its wallet out, but you understood, I think it's fair to say, that in getting its wallet out, in underpinning the European economy and going down the track of, in a sense, debt sharing, which in the long run Germany will probably have to do, you recognised also that Germany, as a quid pro quo, will want to see the deepening of Europe's institutions, the integration of the European Union in a way that hasn't been seen before.
Well, Germany under Chancellor Schröder carried out economic reforms which made Germany competitive. Inside the Eurozone, you can have a successful economy or an unsuccessful economy. And so, yes, Germany is economically the most powerful. But the European Union is a system in which you can't dominate. If you compare it to a company, Germany is the largest shareholder, with about 13% of the members of the European Parliament. You have about 9%, we have about 7%. So on any important issue, you need a coalition of shareholders to get anything done. But yes, the biggest beneficiary and the biggest shareholder, Germany, has the biggest responsibility.
And in talking about Germany in the way you have, the indispensable ally, as you put it, you have upset a number of people in Poland. You know, the leader of the Conservative opposition said that you were proposing for a Poland, vis-à-vis Germany, a subjugative role that threatens Polish independence. And one member of his party said you were opening the way for, his words, a Fourth Reich.
Well, we have Eurosceptics in Poland too, and they are sometimes quite emotional. But I received a resounding confirmation in office by Parliament with a constitutional majority.
Yeah, you got a majority. More than 150 MPs voted to sanction you.
Yes, there is a lot of hostile rhetoric about Europe, both in Poland and in Britain. And it doesn't help to build good solutions for Europe, because we have a crisis and we need institutional arrangements that will work. And that kind of rhetoric is not helpful, either in my country or in yours.
No, but what we have is a nation, Poland, that has escaped the yoke of Soviet communism, which appeared to be fiercely proud of its independence within the European Union, and, like Britain, was very Atlanticist in its view of how Europe should work. And you've thrown all of that over for an alliance with Germany, which it has become clear in the last few months is all about creating, they use the phrase, more Europe, frankly, a federal Europe. Is that what you really want?
Well, that's a silly argument. Come on, you can't compare the European Union with our subjugation under the Soviet system.
No, I didn't compare them
under
in
the
terms
Soviet
of quality
system.
in any way whatsoever, but many Poles think that the greatest achievement of throwing off Soviet communist rule was achieving genuine independence,
and we still have
sovereign
it.
independence
And we
for Poland.
still have it. And in the European Union, we can voluntarily, first of all, apply to the EU and be admitted. You applied, you were rejected first, then you were admitted after a referendum. We also had a referendum, and we pool some aspects of state authority for the greater good of all members. For example, in the trade area, that's the area where we have, both Britain and Poland, literally ceded the sovereign power to negotiate treaties to the European Commission. And we are all much richer for it, because Europe as a whole can negotiate with the United States, with China, with Brazil, as an equal. And neither Britain nor Poland could do that alone.
And that is an achievement which stands, which the European Union, of course, is based upon today. The point is that you, alongside, it seems, your new best friend Guido Westerwelle, the German foreign minister, want to go much further. You issued a joint declaration recently calling for a directly elected European president, an end to national veto power in a whole host of important areas. You want to see fiscal as well as monetary union push forward. You want to see a European monetary fund. And indeed, in the end, you want to see, it seems, an evolution towards a European military capability, an army. Yes. So in all of these areas, it isn't just a question of pooling the sovereignty in trade and economic areas. You want to go much, much further.
In the words of the British Prime Minister, Tony Blair, we want to be a superpower. Because in the end, the European Union is not just about trade. It is about politics, about maintaining the influence of us, the West, in a world in which we are becoming a smaller proportion of the world's population and a smaller proportion of the world's economy. We can still be very rich, but unless we stick together, we cannot maintain the influence that our wealth and our population entitles us to.
But without wishing to sound rude, I'm tempted to ask where you've been for the last couple of years. I mean, not least, have you not been watching Polish public opinion, which for the moment seems deeply sceptical, never mind all of the long, far-reaching sort of pooling sovereignty issues you're talking about, it seems deeply sceptical about joining the euro?
Well, we've just won a general election, and the euro has already been discussed in Poland. It was part of our accession treaty to the EU, and we had a referendum on it. So we are by treaty obliged to join.
That's right.
What
and many Poles are now deeply
what
skeptical
remains
about it.
is the time and the rate of exchange, and we still need to fulfill the criteria. So to the end of this Polish parliament, we'll fulfill the criteria, and then in the next parliament, provided the eurozone sorts itself out, we'll be ready to join.
Well, let's be clear about what you're actually saying, because as I understand it, your own government is saying that you will have met the conditions for entry by 2015. So are you telling me now there's some doubt about whether you'll actually fulfill your obligation and go ahead and join the eurozone at that point?
It has to be a meeting of minds and circumstances, because clearly, while the eurozone is in turmoil, it's not a good time to join.
But hang on, you're the federalist. You just told me that you want to go much further than the euro.
Serious mistakes were made in applying the eurozone, and the problem was that the treaty on growth and stability relied on the goodwill of member states, and the treaty was breached 60 times. And that's why I believe that the problem in the eurozone is at core a problem of governance.
But here's where...
And that's why we need to go further in integration so that crises like that are prevented. And we hope that Britain will help us with its genius for building institutions, will help us to create solid European institutions.
Well, here's where I find yours a very mixed, maybe even confusing message. On the one hand, you're telling me that you see Europe's future in much more profound, deeper integration. Let's even talk about the United States of Europe being your long-term vision. And yet, at the very same time, you back away from Poland's specific commitment to join the euro, and you suggest that the European Union has made fundamental mistakes in even its half-hearted attempt to achieve economic and monetary
I told you
union.
we haven't fulfilled the criteria yet. As soon as we have, we'll make a judgment whether whether the eurozone is ready to have us. Remember, Poland's position is different from Britain's. We have a derogation in time, you have an opt-out. So we already will, for example, ratify the fiscal treaty, and we will have the right to be included in those discussions which concern the future of the Eurozone, because we will one day be a member.
There's much discussion at the moment about banking union as another means of addressing the crisis the European Union and the Eurozone have been through. Should I take it that you are an enthusiastic supporter of a banking union?
Under the right conditions. In Poland, we have a very effective bank supervision. For example, we haven't had a fiasco like the Royal Bank of Scotland. Not a single Polish financial institution has suffered in this crisis. And as you said yourself, our economy has cumulatively grown by 18% in the last 4 years. Average for, I don't know what it is for Britain, but for the EU as a whole is zero.
If I may say so, that may be why your finance minister, your own cabinet colleague, Mr. Rostowski, has said, we are not interested in joining a banking union.
No, he said that we were not happy with the initial proposals, because our difficulty is that whereas our banking supervision is very sound, over 60% of our bank assets are foreign owned. We have to make sure that the subsidiaries are treated fairly, and that we also have some authority over subsidiaries.
I understand from what we've already discussed that your ambition is profound when it comes to the future of the European Union. How are you going to get around the fact that for the fundamental changes you want to see to happen, those states more sceptical, and I'm thinking now about the United Kingdom in particular, their objections will have to be overcome somehow, because at the moment, the way things work, profound treaty change requires unanimity. Even on the most basic level, currently the EU is discussing a new budget, and a new budget can't happen without the acquiescence of all the nations, including the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom says it insists on a real terms freeze in the UK budget. Do you think it's acceptable for one nation to dictate in that way?
Well, let's take this apart, because it's very important. We would like to have Britain on board, because Britain is an important country, an important guardian of liberal rules within the common market. But I would like you to get one thing absolutely straight. We agree with the ambition to have a freeze in real terms. If this is what the British government wants to achieve, it is achievable. But we are talking about a multi-annual budget. So this budget...
2014 to 2020.
That's right. So this budget ends in 2013. If you take the 2013 budget proposal as the base, add inflation, that is exactly the Commission's proposal. So there should be no problem. What the British position is different. I'm afraid. Britain wants to take as the base of the multi-annual budget a single annual budget and an artificially low one in 2011, and not even the budget, but the actual expenditure, and the budget was underspent. And that amounts to a very drastic cut of 200 billion. And this is why Britain is so far so different from the position of the Commission and all the other member states.
I don't want to get too technical on the issue of the budget. I raised it primarily because it seems to me it's the most pressing case of how the EU makes decisions. And the way it currently makes decisions, the United Kingdom has the right, if it so chooses, to veto the future budget.
The multi-annual budget.
Yes.
And what will then happen is that under the Lisbon Treaty, we then go to annual budgets.
Yes.
And those can be voted through by qualified majority voting.
Right,
but what will happen, it's very technical, but let me just finish because it's important. Then the national rebates are undermined. And Poland is actually the fourth largest contributor to the British rebate.
Yes.
So the plan B is actually quite complicated, because the actual budget would be bigger than the Commission's proposals, because it's the last budget plus inflation.
But the point is, if you are indeed, with the Germans and others, to move the European Union forward in the profound way you want to, you're going to have to overcome this logjam in the decision-making process. I was very struck by something you said in Oxford, here in Britain, recently, when you said, and this seemed to be a direct message to the UK, please don't expect us to help you wreck or paralyze the